Good afternoon. I would like to welcome members of to the second part of today's meeting, including all our newly elected members, this time taking place in the Council chamber. Since we are to conduct important business, I have asked my chaplain to come and say a brief prayer before we commence the meeting.
We thank you, Creator God, that in darkness you bring light. We ask that your Spirit of truth would guide this meeting in an atmosphere of harmony and respect, that its business would be conducted well for the benefit of our city and at all times pleasing to you. For Jesus Christ's sake. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Reverend Bob Mason. Members, please be seated. Mr. Mason, I will fully understand if you need to leave this meeting for any other business, but you are very welcome to stay. Members, I want to draw your attention to the COVID advice provided. The Director of Public Health has advised us that in accordance with the Council's risk assessment, she would like to encourage all of us to continue to wear a face covering when moving around crowded areas of the Guildhall and the Council chamber. This is to protect ourselves and our colleagues whilst there is still COVID-19 transmission in our communities due to the Omicron variant in the UK. The Director of Public Health has also informed us that the Chief Medical Officer is advising people to continue to follow the hands, face, space, ventilate guidance when meeting people inside to protect from COVID-19 and other viruses that are currently circulating. So just a gentle reminder that in order to reduce the risk of catching and passing coronavirus or other viruses, we should all follow these preventative measures whilst moving around the Guildhall. Finally, the mechanical ventilation system is working sufficiently well to obviate the need for any of the casement windows to be opened during the meeting. Filming of Council proceedings. With regard to those attending to make deputations, the Council webcast will not show them speaking, but we will hear their words. For the attention of those members of the public wishing to record proceedings, the Council's rules prohibit the filming, photographing, or recording of members of the public, including those making deputations. Evacuation procedures. If the continuous fire alarm sounds, please evacuate the room and public gallery by the stairwells. Do not attempt to use the lifts. Please assemble in front of the Queen Victoria statue in the Guildhall Square. So far as microphones are concerned, for the benefit of new members, those wishing to speak simply press the talk button on the unit in front of you, and I will activate your microphone when I call you to speak. I will also turn off your microphone, and I hope I do not have to do it whilst you are speaking. We now come to the agenda. Agenda item 3, declarations of interest. Members, if you have any disclosable pecuniary interest to declare in the items on the agenda before us, can you please indicate? Sorry. Councillor.
Prejudicial interest in agenda item 13.2, the appointment of a member on the Police and Crime panel, as I am the Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner, so I will leave the debate during that time.
Thank you for your declaration of interest. Any other declarations of interest? No. We have an apology for this meeting from Councillor Cal Corkery, who is unfortunately unable to attend because he is attending a funeral. The next item is the minutes. Could I ask Councillor Vernon Jackson to propose that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 15th of March 2022 be confirmed and signed as a correct record? Does Councillor Bosher second that proposal?
Happy to second, Lord Mayor.
Are the minutes then agreed, members? Thank you. The next item is communications and apologies. Congratulations to Councillor George Madrick and Councillor Brian Madrick for becoming the leader and deputy leader, respectively, of the newly formed Portsmouth Independence Party on the council. Also, congratulations to Councillor Corkery and Councillor Gerarda for becoming the leader and deputy leader, respectively, of the Labour Group. Okay. Yes, I am also asked to remind you of the circulated seating plan which has been agreed in consultation with the group leaders. We now move on.
Over the last year or so, as it's right, and I think it's what we would normally do. So thank you very much, George, for all your work.
Can I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Bosher. I think there would be no objections to that. If there are, I'll deal with them afterwards. I think this can be said as being carried by acclaim. Thank you. Right. There is one deputation for this annual meeting. Details have been circulated on the green sheet.
Can I now ask the Right Honourable Penny Mordaunt MP to make your deputation on item 16? You have 6 minutes and the bell will sound when there is 1 minute to go, and again at the end of your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor and councillors. This is only the second deputation I've made to the council in all the years I have worked for this city. I don't do these things lightly, and only when I have exhausted all other possibilities. I hope you will agree that I work constructively with councillors of every political hue, and I've chosen to make this deputation post-local elections to remove the politics and to hope that every councillor in this chamber hears my concerns and acts on them. My deputation touches on aspects of the motion tabled today which I support, but the points I want to make are much broader. And are concerned with the biggest barrier to the continued regeneration of our city, the capacity of the council's planning department. We have had huge opportunities in the coming months and years to improve the quality of life and opportunity for our citizens, major developments at several sites across Portsmouth, opportunities to build much needed homes, to resolve transport challenges, levelling up funding for the north of Portsmouth and the restoration of key heritage assets. The quality and ability of planning will be fundamental to our success or otherwise. I recognise the challenges this department has had to deal with in recent years, COVID and nitrates being just two. But even allowing for that, we are in a dire situation. We've had major backlogs and a poor service to the public for some time. Efforts made by me and others to ensure the St James's site could have a master plan and a neighbourhood plan have been squandered, with key documents lost and with the council failing to respond to Home England's consultation. Portsmouth is 2 years adrift from its timetable on the local plan, the most basic and vital tool to ensure decent development and legal clout. There has been a failure to grip and shape housing numbers. It's very clear what the council needs to do here and what the process with the planning inspectorate is. Yet excuses are made as to the lack of progress and engagement. We're told we don't have a local plan, we aren't sure of the process, we're confused to the policy, or we have to wait for new legislation. And are you really asking that we are going to wait until 2024 before you ask for housing numbers to be revised down? These bogus excuses have been trotted out over the last 12 months to residents and, most disappointingly, in inaccurate information in consultation with the public on proposed development, giving the public a false impression of the legitimate choices they have in shaping their community. After much pushing, the Council has developed an HMOs policy, which is ineffective because it does not also possess the tools to enact it, as pointed out by Councillor Weems. Whilst we've spent money on flood mitigation measures with huge success over recent years, the Council has allowed development which is clearly creating flooding issues elsewhere, buildings but also schemes such as astroturfing playing fields. And when a key Council service has to close its door to the public just to catch up with its in-tray, something is seriously wrong. These are the basics, but to do well, we need planning to do more than the basics. We need some creativity and drive to tackle the tough stuff. How do we bring derelict buildings back into use, left to rot by their owners? How do we harness the efforts of the fantastic Neighbourhood Planning Forum at Milton and set up more around the city? I brought in planning aid to provide training which led to Milton's formation. Could the Council not provide such opportunities in the future? How do we create viable development at Tipner, building on the vision perhaps that the Wildlife Trust have set out? Currently, the Council are oscillating between two plans, neither of which is practically possible. How do we maximise the regeneration of Hillsea? And what does really good engagement with your stakeholders and your community look like? For years, I've been writing to say that you have a massive problem. Some of my letters have not even been acknowledged. Some action to change culture and build capacity has been taken. That's very welcome. But I'm here to tell you it's not enough. Better or a bit less dire should not get in the way of excellent, and our citizens deserve nothing less. What I'm saying should be no surprise to the Council Chief Executive or to the Planning Department. I've raised all these matters with them. Nor is it a reflection on individual officers in that department, who I'm sure have done their best, and I thank them for it. But unless this is recognised and gripped as an issue, Portsmouth won't reach its full potential. I'm asking that the Council make building capacity and capability in planning a priority, that performance measures on basic planning services are published and tracked, that external oversight and challenge is sought to raise standards and change culture, that members of Parliament and other stakeholders that are sent planning information about major developments such as Cosham as a matter of course, and that specific asks from Southern Water regarding flooding are adhered to, and that the Council take up the offer from the Chief Planning Officer of England to clarify the confusion it is in over its ability to devise appropriate housing numbers. The Chief Planner at the Department for Levelling Up, Homes and Communities, Joanna Averley, has made that offer and wishes me to extend it to the Council. And that this Council is kept fully informed of the progress on all of these matters. I hope councillors will agree with me that this needs to happen and that we can all pull together to make it so. Our city needs us to. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Mordaunt. You are free to leave the meeting, or if you wish, you can watch proceedings from the above gallery. Thank you.
That brings us to the end of deputations for this meeting. We come to item 7 on your agenda. Just to note that under the Local Government and Public Involvement in Health Act 2007, the leader of the City Council, Councillor Vernon Jackson, will remain in office until May 2023, subject to the conditions set out on the agenda. We then move to item 8, Cabinet Appointments. Members, under the previously mentioned Act, the Council Leader is empowered to determine the councillors on the Cabinet and to assign portfolios and portfolio remits and to select one of the appointed members to the position of Deputy Leader. I now call upon the Leader of the Council to give details of his Cabinet arrangements. Leader.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I think Mr Agland has sheets to pass round to everybody, and I'd be happy if he does so, just to confirm that Councillor Susie Horton remains as Deputy Leader of the Council.
Thank you, Councillor Vernon-Jackson. The information on Cabinet positions as provided by the Leader, together with details of the opposition spokespersons as provided by the other group leaders, is being circulated to the members, along with details of the membership of the Health and Wellbeing Board, which is also in the gift of the Leader.
Just for clarity, my Lord Mayor, people to fill their roles on the Health and Wellbeing Board will be myself, Matt Whittington, Susie Houghton, and Simon Bocher, all his nominees.
Thank you, Leader. I'm just waiting for them all to be handed out, so that we do not proceed without people having the correct information in front of them. That item then is duly noted. Items 9 to 14, in accordance with normal practice, I propose to take agenda items 9 to 14 together, namely proportional representation on committees, of which the details were previously circulated, and panels, and the appointment of members and standing deputies, chairs and vice chairs, and other appointments. Is it agreed that we can take these items together? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Madden. Under which standing order? Thank you.
13 and 14, which we've agreed now to take together. And it's particularly in relation to the regulatory committees that we have, where we have a situation where the two other opposition parties, the Conservatives and Labour, have ganged up together to put nominations against those of the administration. What has happened a few minutes ago is that we've agreed to put in a Lib Dem administration. That's what was agreed. Nobody else sought to go forward with it. And it's been a practice in the past. And in my 30 years in this council, even before we had the Leader and Cabinet structure, and when we had the committee structure, the administration of the day, whether it was an overall administration or whether it was, can you hear me? Yeah. Or whether it was a minority administration, the rest of us who were on it accepted the situation that it was up to the administration to put forward their people or their nominations or their... Sorry. I've spoken to the City Secretary earlier on. He said I could raise this as a point of order. I may not get the answer I want, but I'm raising it. So we have the ganging up, Lord Mayor, on the administration. Now, the precedent has always been, as I said, that the administration's nominees go forward on the regulatory committees and usually on the outside bodies, not necessarily on the scrutiny panels, but the administrations of whatever colour they've been have allowed other councillors from other parties to sit in it. So, Lord Mayor, to me this is not practice. It's not fair saying, you go in as an administration, take the Leader and Cabinet, we're going to take most other things. Could I have a reply on that, please?
Can I have advice from the City Solicitor on this matter? Right. Right. I am advised by the City Solicitor that you were proper in making a point of order, but that point of order changes nothing about the procedures of this Council at this time. Councillor Heaney, if this is a point of order under 39A.
What Councillor Madden said, as far as I understand it in my years on the council, there's never been any agreement about the way in which the scrutiny roles have been organised. It's been very much up to individual members and individual groups to decide. We could decide, if we wanted to, to have a proportional system, that we allocate scrutiny panel chairs and vice chairs on the basis of proportionality of parties' strengths in the council chamber. We've never done that. That would be one way of creating a more ordered system. The administration, the Liberal Democrat administration, for many, many years did actually take most of the scrutiny roles, because I remember looking through these when I wasn't on the council and seeing that that was the case. They often took most of the scrutiny roles themselves. Now, they were perfectly entitled to do that, because there was no agreement to do it and they were able to win a majority to do that. But I think Councillor does raise an interesting question about whether we need to think about how we organise our scrutiny, and whether we need some rules or some form of practice that we write in about how we want to do that. And maybe that's something we'll consider when we come to do the review of the Constitution.
Thank you, Councillor Heaney, for that point.
But that's what's happened in the past, and that's what I'm pointing out. Yeah, there's no agreement, and perhaps we need to enter some form of agreement. I wasn't interested, I didn't say anything about scrutiny panels. They're regulatory panels which actually sort of stem from the cabinet downwards, and therefore I was just arguing that it should be just nominations from the administration of the day.
Thank you very much, Councillor Madden. Councillor Bosher, then Councillor Vernon Jackson.
I think I'd say one thing to Councillor Madden, if I may, and that is Constitution Working Party, if you're actually unhappy with it. But rather than direct your ire at the opposition groups in this, you really ought to direct your ire at your leader. Because certainly Councillor Fielding and Councillor Corkery and indeed Councillor Madgwick all took the opportunity to get in touch, and I spoke to them about committee positions. Your leader never bothered. I don't know whether it came down to the Labour group or not, but he only phoned me twice. The first time was to complain about a notice of motion that we actually have on the annual meeting, perfectly in order, and the second time was late on Sunday evening about the Deputy Lord Mayor. So please don't direct your ire at the opposition groups, Councillor Madden. Have a look at the middle of the front row, because that's where your problem actually is. There's nothing in standing orders that stops alternative candidates being put forward for the regulatory committee. If that was the case, there wouldn't be any other candidates forward for those committees. If you want to change something, do it through the Constitution Working Party.
May I remind you of Standing Order 37A? When you are speaking, you speak to the chair, not to another member. You were addressing Councillor Madden, as far as I could see. And I would remind members of Standing Order 37A, that when you are speaking, you address the chair. Councillor Vernon Jackson, followed by Councillor Atkins.
Mayor, and through you, just to help Councillor Heaney, since we've been back in administration, we've always made sure that all the scrutiny panels have had opposition chairs. We've never sought to take any of them. The issue here is about the regulatory ones, about the working of the council, where things are decided. So the two things are very different. I know the Labour group will want to say, oh, it's just about scrutiny. It's not. This is about taking the levers of power away from the administration in a coalition with the Conservatives.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I wish to raise a point of standing order under Standing Order 39A, and I will specify that the standing order I wish to allege a breach of is Standing Order 39A. I would like to invite, and this is the way in which I consider it breached, I'd like to invite the Lord Mayor in future to take a stricter interpretation of Standing Order 39A and indeed 39B, subject to any decisions by a future Constitutional Working Party. The Standing Order clearly states that when someone wishes to raise a point of order under 39A, they must specify the standing order which they believe has been breached at the beginning of their speech. None of the previous four speakers, though I respect what they had to say, did so because none of them was alleging a breach of any standing order in the Constitution, so none of their points should have fallen within Standing Order 39A and should not have been allowed. And I would would invite the Lord Mayor to take that interpretation in future, because it's clearly what the standing order says. If a person stands up and they don't allege a breach of a standing order and they don't specify how it has been breached, it does not fall within Standing Order 39A. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Atkins. I take my advice where I seek it. If I might remember, members, thank you. May I remind members that the substance which has been discussed in these interventions is covered in the constitutional review, which has been resolved by this council, which was proposed at our last meeting by Councillor Scott Pater Harris and seconded by Councillor Matthew Atkins. I think this is properly a matter for the constitutional review to consider, and I would now wish to proceed with today's meeting.
Yes, that's right.
The Leader of the Council has put forward recommendations with reference to committee seat allocations in accordance with the political proportionality rules as referred to in Agenda Item 9, together with the names of their group members proposed to fill the positions as shown in the papers circulated in the Chamber today. The schedule circulated also contains the names of those members from the other groups filling the requisite remaining seats on the respective bodies. There are a number of contested positions which the Council will need to take separate votes on at the end. Could I ask the Leader to so propose, followed by Councillor Bosher as the seconder, in order to adopt the overall political balance and allocation of seats schedule circulated, and if that is approved, to agree the membership of the committees and panels, including standing deputies, chairs and vice-chairs of committees and panels, and other appointments detailed at agenda items 13 and 14, also circulated at the meeting, based thereon. The outcome of the contested positions will be incorporated at the end. Councillor.
Happy to propose.
Thank you. Councillor Bosher.
Through you, can I just clarify something? We have a contested committee in Economic Development, Culture and Leisure and Scrutiny panel, where we have 3 Liberal Democrat members put forward. Is that correct? Should it be 2, and therefore they're looking for an extra seat? In which case the proportionality isn't quite right, if you see what I'm saying. I have no difficulty seconding it in principle, but obviously there is an anomaly there. I'd just like clarified.
I would ask Stuart Agland to say something about the apparent anomaly, if it is an anomaly, and then you can proceed to second.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just to confirm, first of all, obviously as that's a contested position, whilst you're seconding it, it's still subject to a discrete vote as part of the process, so you're not adopting it when you move it. It's perfectly legitimate for the Council to decide, it's in the gift of the Council, as to the allocations on the seats, so long as the overall political proportionality per se is arrived at. There will obviously be individual panels that don't meet that proportionality, but overall, that's the final outcome is all that matters. Therefore, there will be sort of ups and downs in numbers. So it's perfectly legitimate for this to be discussed and for allocations, either for 3 to go on one and 2 on the other, or vice versa, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. You can proceed, Councillor Bosher.
Lawrence, formally seconded.
Thank you. Are there any amendments beside the contested positions? None have been received. The matter is now before members for debate, if required. No. I will now ask the proposer to sum up. Thank you. We will now go to the vote dealing with the contested positions. First, starting with the Hampshire Fire and Rescue Authority representative, will those in favour of Councillor Brown being the council...
Could I ask whether both candidates are happy to accept the nomination?
We don't know if they are, but I wonder if they were able to confirm whether they're happy to accept the nomination, if they were successful.
There is a slight problem with that because Councillor Corkery is not here. And I would ask Councillor Girardi, you were indicating.
Deputy Group Leader.
Al Corkery is still very keen to be chair. Thank you.
To be the representative. To be a representative.
The representative, yeah.
To be, sorry, apologies, yes, yeah.
Right. We therefore put it to the vote.
Lord Mayor, can I have a recorded vote, please?
Can the requisite numbers of members stand to ask for a recorded vote? Yes. That is satisfactory. There will be a recorded vote. Will those in favour of Councillor Brown being the Council's representative please stand to vote in the accepted way?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. So I'm going to call the names out of the members, and if they could sit when the names are said, please. Right. Councillor Sanders, Councillor Horton, Councillor Vernon-Jackson, Councillor Pitt, Councillor Atwell, Councillor Barrett, Councillor Kadir, Councillor Stagg, Councillor Madden, Councillor Vizakali, Councillor Brown, Councillor Ashmore, Councillor Holder, Councillor Hunt, Councillor Jeffrey, Councillor Winnington, Councillor Brian Madrick, Councillor George Madrick, Councillor Simpson.
Thank you. Will those who are in favour of Councillor Corkery being the Council's representative please stand?
Councillor Shah, Councillor Shah, Councillor...
Members, can we have order in the chamber, please?
Just to remind members, when their name's called, if they're happy to sit down, that's great, thank you. Councillor Shah, Councillor Mellor, Councillor Adeniran, Councillor Heaney, Councillor Smythe, Councillor Gerarda, Councillor Coles, Councillor Fielding, Councillor Symes, Councillor Smith, Councillor Lee Mason, Councillor Bosher, Councillor Brent, Councillor Peter Harris, Councillor Norton, Councillor Weems, Councillor Robert New, Councillor Atkins, Councillor Gemma New, Councillor Gosling and Councillor Swan. Not sure if there's any abstentions, Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor. Your Lord Mayor's abstention. We'll just total that out for you, Lord Mayor.
The voting was in favour of Councillor Brown, 19 members. In favour of Councillor Corkery, 21 members. There was one abstention. I therefore wish to inform you that the position on the Hampshire Fire and Rescue Authority therefore goes to Councillor Corkery. The next position, thank you, is the Licensing Committee, where we have Councillor Peter Harris and Councillor George Madwick as committee chair.
Lord Mayor, point of order, and then I'm going to ask the clerk, but can I ask, I think there's been some confusion here, can I check, is this a scrutiny committee or not?
It's a regulatory.
Regulatory body.
Yeah. The Licensing Committee is a regulatory committee.
Thank you, my Lord. I know there's some...
People in the Labour group who said they're just interested in scrutiny, I just think it's important that we know this is not a scrutiny committee.
Members,
And can I have a recorded
Vote, please.
those in favour of
Susie,
recorded
please.
vote, please stand.
Stand.
That is sufficient. We now come to a recorded vote. Will those in favour of Councillor Peter Harris being the committee chair please stand?
Labour Tory pact.
Okay, Lord Mayor, I'll start the roll call. Councillor Shah, Councillor Mellor, Councillor Adeniran, Councillor Heaney, Councillor Smythe, Councillor Gerarda, Councillor Coles, Councillor Fielding, Councillor Symes, Councillor Smith, Councillor Lee Mason, Councillor Bosher, Councillor Brent, Councillor Peter Harris, Councillor Norton, Councillor Weems, Councillor Robert New, Councillor Atkins, Councillor Gemma New, Councillor Gosling, and Councillor Swan.
Thank you. And those in favour of Councillor George Madwick being the committee chair, please stand.
Councillor Sanders, Councillor Horton, Councillor Vernon Jackson, Councillor Pitt, Councillor Stagg, Councillor Kadir, Councillor Barrett, Councillor Atwell, Councillor Madden, Councillor Vazacali, Councillor Brown, Councillor Ashmore, Councillor Holder, Councillor Hunt, Councillor Jeffrey, Councillor Winnington, Councillor Brian Madwick, Councillor George Madwick, and Councillor Simpson.
Thank you, members. You may make a point of order, sir.
Lord Mayor, can I propose George Madwick as the Vice Chair of Licensing, please?
We're not at that point in the meeting yet. We will consider that after this vote, because Councillor Madwick may well be elected as the chairman.
Very good. Thank you.
I'm abstaining on this one, yes. They voted in favour of Councillor Peter Harris, 21 members. In favour of Councillor George Madwick, 19 members. I therefore declare that the chair position goes to Councillor George Madwick. No, sorry. I knew I'd get it wrong. I knew it goes to Councillor Peter Harris. My apologies, Councillor Peter Harris. I must have caused you a second or two of confusion.
I think Councillor Simpson now wants to
No, we've got a stake there.
Yeah, that's what Councillor Simpson's going to
Yeah, I know. Hang on. I understand that the Council wishes to propose a nomination for the Vice Chair of the committee, and I call upon Councillor Simpson.
Thank you. Thank you, Lord Mayor. Can I propose George Madwick as the Vice Chair of Licensing, please?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is that seconded by any person?
I'm quite happy to second that as the chair of licensing.
Thank you. It's seconded by Councillor Peter Harris. Yes. Well, those in half a moment. Let's get it in the right order. First of all, are there any other nominations for the position of Vice Chairman? No. We need to vote in favour. So I have been requested a recorded vote. Will those in favour of...
Well, we need 8 people standing.
We need 8 people to... Yes, 8 people to stand in favour of a recorded vote.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay.
We have sufficient.
Okay.
Right. So we have a proposition that Councillor George Madwick becomes the Vice Chairman of the Licensing Committee. All those in favour, please stand. It is not unanimous.
Okay, Lord Mayor. These in favour: Councillor Shah, Councillor Mellor, Councillor Adeniran. Okay, thank you. So if you've got that, Councillor Mellor's definitely too. Councillor Heaney, Councillor Smythe, Councillor Gerarda, Councillor Coles, Councillor Fielding. Okay. Councillor Horton, Councillor Sanders, Councillor Vernon Jackson, Councillor Pitt, Councillor Stagg, Councillor Kadir, Councillor Barrett, Councillor Atwell, Councillor Madden, Councillor Vazacali, Councillor Brown, Councillor Ashmore, Councillor Symes, Councillor Smith, Councillor Holder, Councillor Hunt, Councillor Jeffrey, Councillor Winnington, Councillor Brian Madrick, Councillor George Madrick, Councillor Simpson, Councillor Bosher, Councillor Peter Harris, Councillor Norton, Councillor Robert New, Councillor Gemma New, and Councillor Gosling. So those against, Lord Mayor?
Thank you. And will those members who are against that proposition please stand?
Okay, any abstentions?
Will any member who wishes to record an abstention please stand?
Okay. Councillor Ryan Brent, Councillor Lee Mason, Councillor Weems, Councillor Atkins, and Councillor Swan, Lord Mayor.
And the Lord Mayor.
And the Lord Mayor is abstaining as well.
Thank you. They're voted in favour of the proposition 34, none against, 6 abstentions. I therefore announce that the Vice Chair position on the Licensing Committee goes to Councillor George Madrick. Thank you. Now to the Planning Committee. I have 2 nominations for the Planning Committee, Councillor Atwell and Councillor Smythe. Will those members in favour... 8 people for a recorded vote. Yes, there's enough.
Okay.
Please. Will those in favour of Councillor Atwell being the committee's chair please stand?
Councillor Sanders, Councillor Horton, Councillor Vernon Jackson, Councillor Pitt, Councillor Stagg, Councillor Kadir, Councillor Barrett, Councillor Atwell, Councillor Madden, Councillor Vizzacali, Councillor Brown, Councillor Ashmore, Councillor Holder, Councillor Hunt, Councillor Jeffrey, Councillor Winnington, Councillor George Madrick, and Councillor Simpson.
Thank you.
Okay.
And those who are in favour of Councillor Smythe being the committee chair, please stand.
Councillor Shah, Councillor Adeniran, Councillor Heaney, Councillor Smythe, Councillor Gerarda, Councillor Coles, Councillor Fielding, Councillor Brian Madrick, Councillor Symes, Councillor Smith, Councillor Lee Mason, Councillor Ryan Brent, Councillor Bosher, Councillor Peter Harris, Councillor Norton, Councillor Weems, Councillor Robert New, Councillor Atkins, Councillor Gemma New, Councillor Gosling, and Councillor Swan. Any abstentions, Lord Mayor?
Lord Mayor. Are there any abstentions?
Just add the Lord Mayor
Just
to
the Lord
those
Mayor,
abstentions.
yeah. Bang goes my 1 o'clock meeting, my 1 o'clock lunch. Right. They're voted in favour of Councillor Atwell, 18 people, and in favour of Councillor Smythe, 21 members. I therefore declare that Councillor Smythe is elected to be the chairman of the Planning Committee. We now move on to the Governance and Audit and Standards Committee, where again I have a point of order from Councillor Fielding, I believe.
We don't have a vice chair for Planning Committee, and I was going to nominate Chris Atwell as vice chair. Apologies.
Right.
Through you, Lord Mayor.
through the Lord Mayor, I have had it proposed that we should at this time elect a Vice Chairman for the Planning Committee, and Councillor Atwell has been proposed. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Smythe. Well, I assume members would like a recorded vote on this.
Is Councillor Atwell happy with the position?
But before we start, is Councillor Atwell, are you happy to accept the nomination?
Nomination, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. I have Councillor Ryan Brent indicating.
It was a point of clarity, really, just for a bit of advice from the local democracy manager. And it might be my misunderstanding, but I didn't know if the Lord Mayor could sit on committees, so I just wanted that clarified if possible.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The standing orders make it clear that the Lord Mayor cannot be a chair or a vice chair of a committee, or, of course, sit on any capacity in an executive role.
In common parlance, I'm clean. Right. We have a nomination for Councillor Atwell as the Vice Chairman of the Planning Committee. Will those in favour please stand? Show of hands. Okay.
It's unanimous, Lord Mayor.
It's unanimous. Okay. We now come to the Governor's Audit and Standards Committee, where again I have two nominations. I have Councillor Madden and Councillor Weems. One, two, three, four, five. Yep, they're enough. Okay, we have a recorded vote. Will those who are in favour of Councillor Madden being the committee chair please stand?
Councillor Shah, Councillor Adeniran, Councillor Smythe, Councillor Sanders, Councillor Horton, Councillor Vernon-Jackson, Councillor Pitt, Councillor Stagg, Councillor Kadir, Councillor Barrett, Councillor Atwell, Councillor Madden, Councillor Vazacali, Councillor Brown, Councillor Ashmore, Councillor Holder, Councillor Hunt, Councillor Jeffrey, Councillor Winnington, Councillor Brian Madrick, and Councillor George Madrick.
Thank you. Will those in favour of Councillor Weems being the committee chair please stand?
Councillor Heaney, Councillor Gerarda, and Councillor Fielding, Councillor Simpson, Councillor Symes, Councillor Smith, Councillor Lee Mason, Councillor Brent, Councillor Bosher, Councillor Peter Harris, Councillor Norton, Councillor Weems, Councillor Robert New, Councillor Atkins, Councillor Gemma New, Councillor Gosling, and Councillor Swan. Your abstention, Lord Mayor.
Yep. There voted 21 members in favour of Councillor Leo Madden and 17 members in favour of Councillor Weems. I therefore declare that the chair position goes to Councillor Madden. Thank you. We now move to the Employment Committee, where once again I have two nominations, Councillor Ashmore and Councillor Corkery.
Just the chair.
Will those in favour of a recorded vote please stand? That is sufficient, thank you. Will those in favour of Councillor Ashmore being the committee chair please stand?
Councillor Sanders, Councillor Horton, Councillor Vernon-Jackson, Councillor Pitt, Councillor Stagg, Councillor Kadir, Councillor Barrett, Councillor Atwell, Councillor Madden, Councillor Vazacali, Councillor Brown, Councillor Ashmore, Councillor Holder, Councillor Hunt, Councillor Jeffrey, Councillor Winnington, Councillor Brian Madrick, Councillor George Madrick, Councillor Simpson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Those in favour of Councillor Corkery please stand.
Councillor Shah, Councillor Adeniran, Councillor Heaney, Councillor Smythe, Councillor Gerarda, Councillor Coles, Councillor Fielding, Councillor Smith, Councillor Symes, and Councillor Lee Mason, Councillor Brent, Councillor Bosher, Councillor Peter Harris, Councillor Norton, Councillor Weems, Councillor Robert New, Councillor Atkins, Councillor Gemma New, Councillor Gosling and Councillor Swan. And your extension on that.
They voted in favour of Councillor Ashmore, 19, in favour of Councillor Corkery, 20. I therefore declare that Councillor Corkery has been elected to the chairman position. Right. We now move to the vice chair position on the Employment Committee, where again I have two nominations. Councillor Gerald Vernon Jackson and Councillor Simon Bosher. Will those in favour of a recorded vote please stand? Thank you, that is sufficient. Those in favour of Councillor Vernon Jackson, please stand.
Councillor Sanders, Councillor Horton, Councillor Vernon Jackson, Councillor Pitt, Councillor Stagg, Councillor Kadir, Councillor Barrett, Councillor Atwell, Councillor Madden, Councillor Vazacali, Councillor Brown, Councillor Ashmore, Councillor Holder, Councillor Hunt, Councillor Jeffrey, Councillor Winnington, Councillor Brian Madrick, Councillor George Madrick, Councillor Simpson.
Thank you. And those in favour of Councillor Bosher, please stand.
Councillor Shah, Councillor Mellor, Councillor Adeniran, Councillor Heaney, Councillor Smythe, Councillor Gerarda, Councillor Coles, Councillor Fielding, Councillor Smith, Councillor Symes, Councillor Lee Mason, Councillor Brent, Councillor Bosher, Councillor Peter Harris, Councillor Norton, Councillor Weems, Councillor Robert New, Councillor Atkins, Councillor Gemma New, Councillor Gosling and Councillor Swan.
Councillor Madrick, members, Councillor Madrick, I am sufficiently old-fashioned that I like to have order in the chamber. They voted in favour of Councillor Gerald Vernon Jackson, 19 members. In favour of Councillor Bosher, 21 members. Councillor Bosher is therefore elected to the Vice Chairman of the Employment Committee. Thank you. We now come to the Economic Development, Culture and Leisure Scrutiny Panel. Council firstly needs to determine whether a third Liberal Democrat seat should be on this panel or the second Liberal Democrat seat on the Education, Children and Young People's Scrutiny Panel. The group leader will then name which member will sit on the allocated panel. Should Council decide to keep 3 Liberal Democrat members on the Economic Development, Culture and Leisure Scrutiny Panel, the Council will need to decide which group member shall be removed to retain the membership of 6. This group member will then be assigned to the Education, Children and Young People Scrutiny Panel. Can I have a proposal, please?
Well, I'm sure we will happily move somebody across so that we don't need to have a debate and a vote on this. So can I suggest that at the moment we move Dave Ashmore to Children, as he is a father of several.
I don't think we need to get that
If
accepted.
that's the will of the Chamber, then that does away with this particular
Right.
vote.
Thank you very much, Councillor Vernon-Jackson, for making sure the meeting proceeds at some pace. Now to the chairing of this panel. We have two people who have been proposed for the chair of this panel, Councillor Fielding and Councillor George Madwick. Will those in favour of Councillor Fielding please show?
Sorry, can I ask for a recorded vote, please?
Okay, it will be a recorded vote. Thank you. Right. Those in favour of Councillor Fielding being the chair of this panel, please stand.
Councillor Shah, Councillor Mellor, Councillor Adeniran, Councillor Heaney, Councillor Smythe and Councillor Gerarda, Councillor Coles, Councillor Fielding, Councillor Smith, Councillor Symes and Councillor Lee Mason, Councillor Brent, Councillor Bosher, Councillor Peter Harris, Councillor Norton, Councillor Weems, Councillor Robert New, Councillor Atkins, Councillor Gemma New, Councillor Gosling and Councillor Swan.
Right. Thank you. And those in favour of Councillor George Madwick being the chair of this panel, please stand.
Councillor Sanders, Councillor Horton, Councillor Vernon-Jackson, Councillor Pitt, Councillor Stagg, Councillor Kadir, Councillor Barrett, Councillor Atwell, Councillor Madden, Councillor Vazacali, Councillor Brown, Councillor Ashmore, Councillor Holder, Councillor Hunt, Councillor Jeffrey, Councillor Winnington, Councillor Brian Madwick, Councillor George Madwick, Councillor Simpson.
Right, thank you.
Your abstention again, Mayor?
Abstention, yeah. Sorry. They're voted in favour of Councillor Fielding, 21 members, and in favour of Councillor George Madwick, 19 members. The chair position therefore goes to Councillor Fielding. Now the Traffic, Environment and Community Safety Scrutiny Panel. Once again, I have two nominations, Councillor Gemma New and Councillor Simpson.
Another recorded vote, please, my Lord Mayor.
Will those in favour of a recorded vote, please? Yes, there's sufficient. Yes, I can count fast. Okay. Well, those in favour of Councillor Gemma New being the chair of this panel, please stand.
Councillor Shah, Councillor Mellor, Councillor Adeniran, Councillor Heaney, Councillor Smythe, Councillor Gerarda, Councillor Coles, Councillor Fielding, Councillor Smith, Councillor Symes, Councillor Lee Mason, Councillor Brent, Councillor Bosher, Councillor Peter Harris, Councillor Norton, Councillor Weems, Councillor Robert New, Councillor Atkins, Councillor Gemma New, Councillor Gosling, Councillor Swan.
And those in favour of Councillor Simpson being the chair of this panel?
Councillor Sanders, Councillor Horton, Councillor Vernon-Jackson, Councillor Pitt, Councillor Stagg, Councillor Kadir, Councillor Barrett, Councillor Atwell, Councillor Madden, Councillor Vazacali, Councillor Brown, Councillor Ashmore, Councillor Holder, Councillor Hunt, Councillor Jeffrey, Councillor Winnington, Councillor Brian Madwick, Councillor George Madwick and Councillor Simpson.
Thank you, members.
Abstention on that.
Thank you. There voted in favour of Councillor Germanew, 21 members, and in favour of Councillor Simpson, 19 members. I therefore declare that the chair position goes to Councillor Germanew. Having determined the contested positions, we will now vote on the leader's proposal as circulated, incorporating the outcome of the contested positions' votes.
Order 38A. At the beginning of the discussion, Stuart Agland said as local democracy officer we had to have regard to proportionality. My understanding is that the 13 members of the Conservative group have taken 4 chairs, the 9 Labour members have taken 4 chairs, the 17 Lib Dems have taken 2, and the 3 independent members have taken none. Can I ask if that reflects the proportionality as set down within the Act?
For that, I need legal advice. Having taken advice on this, Councillor Vernon Jackson, I am advised that we do not apply proportionality to chair positions, just to memberships. So, having clarified that matter, will those in favour of the leader's proposal as circulated with the outcome of the contested position votes, please indicate. Are there any against? That is unanimous. We now come to agenda item 15. There is no urgent or important business from members of the Cabinet in accordance with Standing Order 26. I bet there will be at the next meeting. We now move to agenda item 16, the notice of motion. We have one notice of motion before us today. Is motion A concerning Oceans and Coastal Waters, proposed by Councillor Robert New and seconded by Councillor Weems? Thank you. Councillor Weems, are you seconding this?
Yes, I second and I reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. I now call upon the proposer, Councillor Robert New, to present and to speak to his motion.
Environment. After we declared a climate emergency here in this chamber as a council, we can be proud to say that we have helped pioneer the way forward as a local authority. We can be proud of how we put these issues at the core of our policy making and council decisions. As an island city, we are completely surrounded by tidal harbours and the Solent. Today, I am speaking as a member of the council that spends a lot of time in the ocean. Councillor Weems and I wanted to put the ocean recovery on the agenda here in Portsmouth. Many of you will know that both myself and Councillor Daniel Weems are passionate about the Big Blue, and I don't mean the Conservative Party. As marine and ocean lovers, the health of our ocean, harbours and natural marine habitats are important to us. They're important to you and they're important to our residents. A thriving ocean goes hand in hand with thriving coastal communities, in our opinion. As a council, we have huge powers, resources and a platform to do good by our environment. Whether that is directly, as other councils like Adair and Plymouth are doing, or working with brilliant partners like the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Conservation Trust, the Ocean Conservation Trust, or through academic bodies like Portsmouth University and their acclaimed Marine Sciences departments, there's a lot that we can do to support our aims. Portsmouth also has a working fishery, and a thriving ocean is good for everyone. It is good for fishermen, it is good for surfers, it is good for windsurfers, it is good for swimmers, through to local people and everyone in between. As we come out of the pandemic and look towards a brighter future for our city and the waters that surround us, there is the possibility of also helping with low-tech solutions such as oyster seeding through to seagrass meadow planting and rewilding. These are natural water cleansing and carbon capture solutions. Happily, we've already seen such work start here. They're already starting to take root. But there's much more to be done. We're calling on government to appoint a dedicated coastal communities minister too. We've seen the power of good that this can bring to our city. The Coastal Communities Fund has helped regenerate parts of Portsmouth, such as the Hot Walls, with the fantastic Arches Regeneration Project, which in turn makes the city a more vibrant place for those who live here, creatives who create here, and ultimately for tourists and a booming tourism sector. We've seen our ambitions for Portsmouth Port starting to be realised on a larger scale, and I thank everyone involved in that, from Mike Sellers and his team at the port, through to the council leader and all the colleagues and MPs like Penny Mordaunt in Westminster, who've worked to secure the funding together with the council for the new expansions at the port. Lord Mayor, one of the main objectives of this motion and of the Ocean Conservation Trust is ocean literacy. Through the education portfolio, we'd love to see engagement and a programme of ocean literacy for schools and colleges such as Highbury and Portsmouth, and perhaps even the creation of events too. I'm sure most of you will agree that with fewer swimming pools in our city, it's more important to teach children about the ocean, a healthy ocean, and also about learning to swim. At present, not everyone has the opportunity or means to access and enjoy the ocean. Even within Portsmouth, there are people of all ages who have never experienced the joy of our ocean. It is estimated that 1 in 3 children cannot swim for various reasons. As an island city, that feels very wrong. While the reasons for this may be varied, ocean literacy may help children and parents find the confidence to embrace the ocean as children and families in coastal communities across the ages have done. In this fast-paced modern world, it can only be a good thing. And the ocean has the power to improve well-being, to disconnect us from our fast-paced lives, our smartphones, and being bombarded with information and being accessible to everyone 24/7. As politicians, we know that that is true. With the mental health crisis and more stresses and strains on existing mental health services, alternatives such as ocean therapy and cold water therapy exist and are enjoyed by more and more people, including members in this chamber who I know can speak firsthand to this. But of course, no one wants to swim in dirty waters or waters polluted by greedy water companies. The government must ensure that by September that these water companies fulfil their legal obligations to provide both immediate and long-term plans to end the practice of storm overflows. And to that end, the dumping of untreated effluent into our harbours, waterways and the sea. We've already seen from the direct action of the Solent MPs and the work undertaken by organisations such as Stop the Sewage that by putting a firm boot on the necks of water companies, they are responding. Today, Councillor Weems and I are calling on full council to declare an urgent need for ocean recovery. Local authorities cannot solve the ocean crisis alone, but we can and we must play our part. We are asking the Cabinet to write to Government on a series of requests detailed in the motion. Building on the work started by the administration last year, we'd respectfully ask that Council creates a dedicated online portal website for ocean recovery to update residents on the ocean recovery progress, signpost to ocean literacy development opportunities, marine citizenship pledges and volunteering opportunities. We'd also like to see ocean literacy grow, as well as marine citizenship in Portsmouth, including ensuring all pupils are given the opportunity to experience the ocean firsthand before leaving primary school, striving to include homeschooled children and promote equitable access to the ocean through physical and digital experience of all residents. We're also asking government to put the ocean into net recovery by 2030 and for the council to better work and to listen to marine science partners and for all other partners listed in the motion, and to cover the items requested in item number 9 of our motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to this motion? Councillor Heaney.
I do wish to propose an amendment, and I'd like to formally move it and be circulated.
Do you wish to speak to
I'll
your
speak
amendment?
to it, obviously. Can we circulate it first? And I'll speak to it.
Yep.
for the avoidance of doubt, the whole paper is not my amendment. It's the little bit at the end.
Now, you have proposed this. Do I have a seconder for the amendment?
Seconded, with the right
Thank
to
you.
reserve my right to speak.
So, Councillor Heaney, will you please speak to your amendment?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just to avoid any doubt, the only amendment is to add a little 6 at the very end of the motion. Before I do that, I just wanted to say something about how I came to realise just how serious the problem in our oceans are. I regularly go to Farthington Marshes and I walk up the harbour, and you look across this sea and it's very pristine and lovely, and occasionally you do see rubbish and stuff on the shoreline. What shocked me was that about 2 years ago I took some walks around the harbour, going up to the Eastern Road Bridge and then going to Farthington Marshes, and on that lower path, after some storms, there were a whole lot of seaweed had been thrown up onto the path below. Gradually over the weeks, as the seaweed dried and decayed, I noticed that there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pieces of plastic within the seaweed that were now going across now. And I decided to just, to pick up some of this stuff, to see what it was. This is a fraction of what I picked up a couple of years ago. I'm going to just hand it round to members to have a look, just to get a sense of this was what was in the sea and was caught up in the seaweed and was then thrown up onto the pathway. But this plastic material is actually in our seas, and I have to say it shocked me to see just how much there was. Hundreds of small pieces of plastic, nurdles, bits of plastic toys, broken plastic that began to become decayed and eroded because of the time it had been in the sea. And some of this stuff has probably been in there for an awful long time. So in many ways I was very pleased to see this motion come forward. I noticed that there was reference, obviously, to the issue of sewage outfall, but I was a bit surprised there wasn't something more specific in it, because the motion is very general. It's a model motion, which is fine. A number of local authorities have passed it and added things, and I just think it's important that we add something about the issue of sewage and stormwater discharge, because this has obviously been a very important issue. It has really angered people, and it also poses a real threat, I think, to our broader health. I don't want to rehearse the arguments about what has gone on. The water company's record, particularly Southern Water, is appalling. We know what that is. The times they've been to court, the times they've been fined, we know they have a terrible record. So I don't think we can rely on their goodwill to do this. We must keep the pressure up on them. And when the Environment Bill was being debated back a while ago, the government was reluctant to put pressure on the water companies. They were quite keen to try and persuade and cajole them, but they were talking about progressively reducing the impacts of sewage pollution from storm overflows. That didn't really give much guidance. And one of the criticisms, I think, is that we need more tougher measures and more targets. So hence, in the amendment that I put, I've said that we should ask government to place a duty on water companies engaged in sewage disposal to ensure untreated sewage is not discharged into inland and coastal waters, and provide targets and timelines to ensure the change is achieved. Now, if you wanted any more evidence about why this is necessary, I'm just going to quote from the last report that went to the Langston Harbour Board on 22nd of April. Between the last report in February until the 22nd of April, there were 111 notifications of consented stormwater discharges received from Southern Water during the period since that last meeting in February, representing approximately 145 hours of stormwater discharge. So this gives you some idea of the extent to which this is still a serious problem. Now, I don't think we've had huge amounts of rain and huge storms in these last months or so from February to March, but that's the sort of level of it. And I think this is why it's really important we do actually place before government more pressure on them to make sure that we deal with this problem not in 10, 15 years' time, but as soon as possible. And the water companies need to be forced into timelines and targets to make sure that we have oceans that we can both enjoy and which will nurture our planet for many, many, many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. The motion is now open for debate. Councillor Vernon Jackson.
Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Let me just find the email. I just thought it would be useful to update members in relation to things. I think I entirely support Councillor Heaney's amendment that seems to me to strengthen the bill, strengthen the motion. I think it was very clear that there was big public backlash against Conservative MPs who voted to give the water companies a free hand to be able to pump anything into our sea and into our rivers, and they had to row back really, really fast on that. And I'm really disappointed that our local Conservative MPs weren't prepared at that time to support looking after our oceans and our rivers. I'm pleased that pressure on them made them change their mind, but that was really disappointing, and I know that the focus groups have said that it's a real damage to the Conservatives, which I'm sure is why we had this here. So, my Lord Mayor, what I'd like to say is we did have Penny Mordaunt here, and I'm very pleased that she's here, and it's always good to work with her. We did have she did bring up the issue of our planning department. And we have done significant amount of work on this to be able to see if we could get down the backlog. So we were able to say we did a 2-week piece of work just before the election to be able to clear down the backlog of planning applications. Normally, the planning department would be able to clear 20 to 25 a week. In that 2-week period, by just concentrating on clearing the backlog, they removed 253 planning applications from that backlog. So they gave planning decisions on 253 applications, and that's been really helpful. The other things that Penny mentioned was in terms of HMO policy and the housing targets. We have been advised that even though ministers have said the housing targets are not there, that actually the law is the exact opposite, that the housing targets remain, and that we need to distrust ministers because they don't normally tell the truth. So we have to work, and we will come forward with a local plan that's compliant because we can't trust the word of ministers. Likewise on HMOs, we would all like to be able to do more to be able to... No, I'm sorry, that's not true. All of us on the planning committee, with the exception of Councillor Smythe, want more controls on HMOs and voted to say... So the last planning committee, we had a debate about whether if somebody was going to go to a super HMO, they needed to have planning permission. And all the councillors said, yes, they should have to have planning permission, except Councillor Smythe, who voted against that proposal. So what it would be, we had a useful briefing.
Councillor Vernon Jackson, this does not appear to have very much to do with the motion which is actually before us.
My Lord Mayor, I would very kindly remind you, you did not say the same to the MP for Portsmouth North, even though she didn't mention anything about this proposal in her deputation. I think it is only right the administration, even though, and people don't like us being in it, are able to respond to the points that are raised in the deputation on this issue. So, my Lord Mayor, if I could just conclude a few remarks from this, just to say that we will work to try to make sure that we address Penny's concerns about HMOs. But unfortunately, the power to be able to limit them rests in the hands of the members of Parliament of the ruling party, and therefore Penny Mordaunt has it in her power to be able to change HMO policy. We don't, but we leave that with Daniel and with Rob to be able to sort out Penny, to be able to make sure that she gives us the powers to be able to make this happen. Unfortunately, I think that they are powerless to do so, and that we will be left, unfortunately, with a very unsatisfactory Conservative policy of allowing HMOs almost everywhere. Thank you, my Lord Mayor.
A point of order, Councillor Smythe.
To ask people to go and listen to the record of that meeting. I have never been against HMO regulation, and indeed I've always been in favour of sticking to the regulations we have agreed, and I'm on record at doing that consistently. But what Councillor Vernon-Jackson said about me is simply not true, and one of the platforms of our policy that's gone to the electorate this year and probably contributed to us having more seats is to regulate HMOs more, and indeed to do other forms of regulation that give people a high standard of living. I just didn't recognise what he said at all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that correction, Councillor Smythe.
Very happy to look at the transcript with Councillor Smythe. She did vote in favour of not allowing, saying to people they could have super HMOs without planning permission, and that's not right.
Councillors, may we return to the matter in hand? I have Councillor Weems and Councillor Barrett who have indicated their wishing to speak on this matter. I will take them in that order. Councillor Weems and then Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I didn't think I'd actually get a chance to speak, but I just want to echo what Councillors Heaney and Councillor New said about the motion. Unfortunately, I can't echo what Councillor Vernon-Jackson said because he didn't talk about the motion at all. So, as everyone is aware in this room, there is currently a climate emergency in Portsmouth, but there's not one specifically for the ocean. As an island city, we need to be at the forefront of promoting meaningful, positive change in everything we do towards our marine environment, and that starts today with this motion. Coastal communities like Portsmouth are on the front line in facing climate change and marine pollution, and Portsmouth's economy is deeply embedded with the marine environment, meaning that our city is at risk from any sea level rise or extreme weather event driven by climate change. It destroys livelihoods and threatens our residents' very well-being and health. In addition to climate change, coastal communities are also undergoing continuous socio-demographic upheaval with highly transient and seasonal workforces. Young people leaving and old people arriving, combined with a clear lack of ocean literacy and future planning, has led to coastal communities' connection to the sea continuing to be low. Determining how each coastal community can become resilient in the face of such socio-demographic change and the increasing number of extreme events and environmental threats is a key challenge for any local authority. Unfortunately, central government policy responses have been complicated by the fact that coastal communities' diversity means that there is unlikely to be any one-size-fits-all policy, and this is very true within Portsmouth. In recent years, Portsmouth alone has seen more frequent problems like sea level rise, coastal flooding caused by winter storms, increased temperatures, higher levels of winter precipitation, coastal erosion and sediment reworking. Fortunately, it's not all doom and gloom, as marine settings provide many health-promoting opportunities including active, outdoor lifestyles and restorative mental health benefits. But we must be doing more at a local level to realise the benefits of the ocean, and that is why our group has brought the motion before the Council today. As a resident of Portsmouth, I have always felt the hypnotic pull of breaking waves, enjoyed jumping in rock pools, felt the flow of the current, sought out weird and wonderful wildlife, and ran towards the mists of the hovercraft. I've spent many summer evenings watching ships of all shapes and sizes enter the harbour, and I've always felt connected to the sea through my family's ties to the yacht industry and the Royal Navy. The ocean environment was forced on me from a young age, and I've never regretted this education. However, others who have grown up away from the coast, and even some in our city, seemingly feel unconnected to the sea. We as members may feel the real life-giving role of the ocean and its intimate relationship with humans, but it may not be common knowledge to some of our residents. As Dan Burgess of We Are Ocean aptly puts it, our vast blue distant ocean is choking on our disconnected, disposable culture of limitless consumption and wider ecological illiteracy. Species are dying out, industrial overfishing is destroying marine ecosystems, pollution in multiple forms is disrupting marine life, and acidification is rising. Human development continues to destroy coastlines and communities. However, during the pandemic, this disconnect began to change as we started to rediscover our true relationship with the ocean and its extraordinary life-giving properties. Our interconnectedness with it during these long months of isolation was a joy to see. We saw firsthand in Portsmouth Harbour the ocean's extraordinary regenerative potential, and we also just waking up to its ability to heal itself, and the vast number of species and life it supports, as well as the enormous health and well-being benefits to humans that being on or near water gives us. Councillor New and I have interviewed and listened to hundreds of voices over the past 18 months, And there are people, projects and organisations all over the UK doing incredible work to accelerate action, and we must be using their expertise too. What is clear in Portsmouth is an urgent need for a more mainstream and cultural understanding of our utter independence on the ocean for life, because without that we will continue to neglect it. As is the ethos of today's motion, that ocean literacy is sorely needed today. How quickly can we start to make these connections in our lives and respond in ways that will help restore and regenerate the ocean is the challenge ahead, and to remove the culture where the ocean is often an occasional destination. Ocean literacy is so important. Understanding the ocean is essential for comprehending and protecting this planet. Councillor New and I have long called for more ocean literacy within the city, as an ocean literate person can understand the importance of the ocean to humankind. They're able to communicate the ocean in a meaningful way, and they have a more responsible and informed behaviour towards the ocean and its resources. As we know, young people are already anxious about the environmental challenges facing us before their lives were disrupted by COVID-19. Parents and teachers need more support with their role in shaping young people's lives and empowering them to make a sustainable choice. 4 out of 5 teachers feel their school could do more to help young people take an active role in tackling these issues, and Portsmouth is no different. This drive to education doesn't stop with young people either. We as a local authority must be a mechanism for people to realise the benefits of ocean living. We must grow ocean literacy and marine citizenship within Portsmouth and promote equitable access to the ocean through physical and digital experience for all residents. We must work with Highbury and Portsmouth colleges to continue to embed marine, maritime and blue carbon training at the heart of training provision, as well as with technical and apprenticeship training providers where appropriate. And finally, we must make resources accessible, creating an online portal on the council website to give updates on ocean recovery progress, signposts to ocean literacy development opportunities and marine citizenship pledges. I hope that everyone here, including Councillor Vernon Jackson, supports this motion, and I commend it today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kimberly Barrett.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor, and thank you both to Councillor New and to Councillor Weems for bringing this motion today. Can I just say that great minds do think alike. Myself and Councillor Horton, thought this was so important that in April we actually submitted the same motion, or pretty identical, to go to June's meeting. So I hope that does show the level of support that we do have for this motion today. A few months ago, myself and Councillor Ashmore stood in front of all of you asking to support our nature emergency motion, which I was so pleased that we did have the support from this council. However, and quite rightly, Councillor New at the time, you did point out that nature is it's not just land-based. We are an island city, as you pointed out. We're surrounded by water, and these sites around our city are extremely special. I think we're very unique as a city that we are surrounded by what we have. Langstone Harbour, as an example, not just an SSSI, but sections are also special protection areas, and it's also a Ramsar site. We need to protect the harbour and the ocean to the best of our ability, increase the biodiversity wherever possible, and reduce its carbon to net zero, and continue to clean up our oceans for all. This is why this motion is so important and why I'm so pleased it's here today. It talks about promoting closer working relationships between the council, marine organisations and partners. As Councillor New knows, because he's on some of these, we do significant work with people or organisations like the Lancaster Harbour Board, Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust, the University of Portsmouth, and I now know, obviously through my time being Cabinet Member, that there are other universities and organisations all around the world that feed into what we have going on in Portsmouth. Cross-party working with as many people on this issue is an absolute must. Myself and Councillor New had the privilege of being able to find out about the Seagrass project. Extremely important, what's going on in Langstone Harbour, and is exactly the kind of thing that we need to go forward. I also wanted to mention as well the many organisations around the city, in neighbouring cities as well, and across the country, who are doing all their own kind of work as well, whether it's looking at water treatment or testing,
doing their beach cleans, but also holding us as their representatives to account wherever possible. There are also the projects such as the oyster beds and the rock pools that we have with the ongoing sea defence work, which I think are vitally important. It's also another reason why myself and Susie submitted our own motion on this as well. It was on behalf of the Stop the Sewage group, Stop the Sewage South Sea group, who've been doing a lot of vital work to highlight what's going on and raising awareness of the filth that unfortunately gets pumped not just into our harbour but into rivers and oceans across the country. We really do believe in education. I think it's really vitally important that you've brought this forward as well. It's something I'm quite happy to work with. I'm sure myself and Susie are very happy to sit down and talk to schools, talk to anybody who's interested. Because, as I've said before in this chamber, it's the kids. If the kids have a subject they're passionate about, they then go home and nag us as adults, and parents, grandparents, aunts, friends. It's them that, you know, really push this forward. So more education, not just at a school level, but further education as well is vitally important. So I think that's great to hear. This does affect us all, so I'm happy personally to take the points in this motion, work with the Cabinet, work with all members in here, whether it's reaching out to other groups, as we said, promoting education across the board, and, you know, writing a letter to government, which I think is very important. Perhaps other members in this chamber would also be keen to sign on to this letter so that we can all hold the government to account. When we're all in unity and as one, I think it shows the real strength that we have as a council. And I think it would really mean that we could hold the government to account to make sure they listen and adhere to all the points that you've made under section 9 of this motion. So thank you again for bringing it forward today. It is a really good motion, and I think it's a really good way to start this year's full council meeting. So thank you.
I have no... Councillor Smythe, you're indicating. Yes?
I'm seconding this amendment and to the motion, and I'd like to draw your attention back to the amendment. What we've heard is that everybody in this chamber seems to be in support of the overall motion, but we haven't had much response to the amendment. And I just want to say how important I think the amendment is to make sure that we focus locally on what is absolutely crucial for our city, for the economy around the beach, for people like me who swim regularly in the sea, for people who want to teach their children to swim in the sea in the absence of a pool at the moment in the south of the Portsmouth, and for all of those of us who love the beach and love being in the water. And anybody who doesn't go in the sea here, who might need a reminding about why this particular thing about the sewage outfalls from Southern Water only needs to look at one or two of the Blue Planet films put up by David Attenborough, and also making things like going on boats, or I've had the fortune of being on scuba diving trips and seeing for myself the absolute beauty of the sea world and the tragic destruction that's occurring across the world because of pollution in the ocean. And I'd just like to draw your attention back to this amendment, which we think is really important, because we think that the need for us as a council to put collective action against Southern Water, support much more quick recovery of the seas and stopping those outfalls of sewage into our seas, is something that we as a council will have to tackle unanimously with much more energy in the future year. And agreeing this amendment gives it a nice start as a campaign for this year, which we must all join to try and do our bit locally to improve the quality of seawater. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'd certainly like to support this motion brought by Councillor New and Councillor Weems, and also for the amendment from Councillor Heaney and Councillor Smile. I think excellent work, and we should all do that. I think it's also very important that enjoying the sea begins also in swimming pools, and certainly we've got a lack of those in the south of the city at the moment, so anything that the Lib Dem administration can do about getting a swimming pool up and running in the south of the city would be really appreciated, so we can carry on and engage more in the oceans as well. Thank you very much.
Since no one else is indicating, I would ask the proposer to sum up and first of all to state whether he agrees that the amendment could be subsumed, and if not, we will take 2 votes.
Lord Mayor, we are happy to subsume the amendment, and thank you to Councillor Heaney and Smythe for bringing it forward. Thank you. So thank you, members, for your support on this. And just to address a few points at the start before I then actually talk and properly sum up, I just want to extend my thanks actually to Penny Mordaunt MP for coming today to support the motion. And I think I can say the only reason she did do was to vent frustrations. Now, the motion is actually about coastal communities and the ocean. And as I spoke on, you can only have one. You can't have a healthy coastal community without having a healthy ocean, and vice versa. It's symbiotic almost. So the housing stocks, the nitrates, the planning department is linked in with that. I mean, it got a bit off track and a bit political, but I think that the reason why the deputation was made is because it feels like it's not being heard. But now I'll move on from that, and I'm pleased to hear that the leader of the council did indeed hear that. And while he called ministers or said that they are untruthful and can be liars, well, maybe some are, but she is not. And I can tell you, because I sat in on the meeting, she was very sincere and genuine when she said the offer was extended to you as the leader of the council to go and meet with them with regards to revising the housing numbers down, and you absolutely should. So moving on, I was really heartened. So I think for me personally, this is probably one of the most important motions that I've been involved with. I won't be here after next May. Some of you will be very pleased to know. So it feels nice to be hopefully leaving a little bit of a lasting legacy in terms of just getting some of this thinking and policy direct into our policy making decisions. And I suppose a change of ethos to be considerate of our marine environment. And also as well, my thanks to my colleagues as well, to Councillor Charlotte Gerarda, as well, who's always been supportive, and also to Kimberly Barrett as well as the Cabinet Member for Climate Change. And I do think that we do work collaboratively and we work very well. And I suspect that it's because not only do we have shared interests and aims, I really genuinely think we are all on the same page. So in terms of things like ocean literacy, so both myself and Councillor Weems spoke at length about this. It is going to be so important. And somebody asked in the motion about coming back to Council within 6 months. I think will hopefully give us all some heart as we near the end of the summer. The summer's going to be a great time for people to be out enjoying the ocean, the sea, etc., for all sorts of reasons that Councillor Smythe touched on. We do have ongoing issues. And ocean literacy, I believe, through education, through children, through school settings, further education, will be so important in getting people back connected with the seas that surround, and the harbours that surround Portsmouth as an island city. So I won't speak on too much more, but thank you to everybody that's taken part in today's debate. I do think it was constructive, and I look forward to all of the points and requests within the motion being actioned and coming back to us in due course as per the timescales laid out within the motion. So thank you.
I agree completely with Councillor New. I would not in any way think that Penny wouldn't tell the truth, and she is, unlike many ministers, so I would absolutely make sure that that is absolutely recorded, and it's always a pleasure to work with her. We don't always achieve what we want, but it's a pleasure to work with her.
Thank you, members. You have heard that the original mover of the motion has accepted the amendment, which now becomes part of the substantive motion, and is the matter before you. So we need to take a vote on the motion. Will those people who are in favour of the motion as amended please show? There are clearly none to the contrary, and that is carried unanimously. We now come to item 17, which is dates for council meetings. Members, can I please request approval of the list of dates and times for council meetings for the next municipal year, and in principle agreement to the dates for the council meetings for 2023-24. A proposal from Councillor Vernon Jackson with Councillor Bosher as seconder has previously been circulated. Is that agreed? Thank you. Thank you, members. That concludes today's meeting, and thank you for the courtesy which you have shown to the chair.